Hey everybody, this is Bryce with Set Over Set, the poker stream on Twitch, and we've had a YouTube for a while now, and there's been different content we've put on it. Hand history reviews tend to be the thing that is asked to be done the most. So I'm going to start doing a video series where basically the way that I study, I'm just going to put it up on YouTube, and who knows if people will like it or they won't like it. We will see what the feedback is. Just let us know. But basically, I recommend Flopzilla quite a bit. My studying is balanced between Flopzilla and Cardrunners EV, probably 60 or 70% Cardrunners EV. However, that program is pretty tough to actually... It's tough to make videos on. Number one, it's an expensive product, so a lot of people, it's going to be out of their price range. And number two, it's going to be a product that has a really high learning curve, so it's going to be somewhat difficult to learn from that program if you haven't used it at all, which I would assume most people haven't. So I'm going to be using Flopzilla. You can use Equilab or PokerStove. Those are free programs. The reason why I like Flopzilla over PokerStove is, number one, Flopzilla does card removal. So based on your particular hands, it shows you the combos of your opponent, how card removal affects them. So if you have the ace of hearts and there's 3 hearts on board, it will actually show you how many flushes you take away from your opponent's range. As far as blockers go, it's a pretty important concept. I talk about it a little bit on stream, but here I can actually demonstrate how it works. Equilab is a really good program as well. Both of those do range versus range. Flopzilla does not do range versus range. Flopzilla does hand versus range, which makes it, which would seem like it's not as good, but the fact is the way that it has the breakdown here, so the breakdown of our opponent's range and all these different, and then you can actually filter for them, is super user friendly and super helpful to see what our opponent's range is. So basically, what we're going to be doing today, well, okay, so in a nutshell, that's why I really like Flopzilla. I think that it's super user-friendly. It does cost money, it's 30 bucks, but it's really, really worth it. And you can also store all your ranges. I have this cropped out so you can't see, but I have all these different ranges saved here, and you can edit the ranges. You can weight the ranges up to 5 different weights. Yeah, so if you want to go here, you can lower it. You know, you can do 45%, and then that will be weighted as 45%. And then obviously, as you can see, it's 1.8 combos. So that being said, we are going to be using this. A concept that I've been focusing on lately has been a concept of value betting. So something that I find that I struggle with is getting to turns and rivers and not knowing if I should be value betting. And the basic definition of a value bet, in most cases, not all cases, most, would be that you have 50% or higher equity versus your opponent's range. If you have less than 50%, it's not considered a value bet. So what we are going to be doing is we're going to be focusing on tighter ranges. Sometimes people want to do stuff like, I open the button, the big blind calls, the flop comes, whatever, and then you try to compare the ranges. The ranges are going to run so tightly together as far as equity. When ranges are very wide, they're going to run closer together. So it's better to pick spots that are in 3-bet pots, or in general just are tighter ranges. It's easier to figure out the answer. And our goal is to be very exact and precise and to find the answer very quickly, rather than get bogged down. Studying in poker can be a bit overwhelming at times, and so the goal is to make it very specific, very precise, find exactly know what we're looking for, find what we're looking for, and do it in the shortest amount of time as possible. If you spend too much time, a lot of times you're not going to understand what you're doing, and you're going to lose focus, and it's just not going to go very well. So, that being said, we're going to get right into a hand, and the hand is going to be middle position opens, button 3 bets, middle position calls. We are the button. So middle position is going to be opening something like this, maybe a bit tighter. I would say likely this. I wouldn't think too much. I wouldn't think too much tighter or looser than this. Then as the button, we're going to 3-bet. And we're actually going to have all these hands as well. That's our 3-bet bluffing range. So we're going to 3-bet middle position. Middle position opens. We 3-bet a range like this. It's going to be suited heavy. It's going to be, so the weighted hands are going to be the hands, you know, the green ones, we only 3-bet 75% of the time. The gray ones, 40%, and the yellow ones, 20%. And then all the ones are 100% bet. So you're going to do really well, and we can actually go into analysis on some of these in a different video. Just leave a comment below and let me know what you think about this. On these types of hands, King 10, Queen 10, Jack 10, these are going to be very good blocker hands in the sense that on this particular side, our opponents are calling queens in this spot a lot. So having a queen, having a 10, having a jack, they're going to be calling all those pocket pairs. So having that and blocking, you know, also blocking ace queen, also blocking ace king, you know, weight them towards pocket pairs, because versus a range that has a lot of pocket pairs in it, it's going to be folding quite a bit on the turn or on the flop. Flops, turns, rivers. We're also going to focus on the turn. We'll look at the flop, but on the turn is where we're going to focus most of the time, and the turn in the river, because those are going to be tighter spots, and the flop's just going to be super wide sometimes. In this spot, it probably won't be too wide, but in general, we're going to try and focus on turn and river spots. So, that being said, get into the action here. So we 3-bet middle position with this type of range. I'll probably have more ace-high hands. I'll probably have more ace-high hands versus under the gun, and then versus middle position we have more of these hands. Just because under the gun is going to be more ace-high heavy. So we 3-bet, and the button calls. So the button's going to be calling a range like this. Or we are button, we 3-bet middle position. Middle position is going to be defending a range like this. Something along those lines. So over half his range is going to be folding. Which is a really good thing because, you know, if he's opening 20, 22%, we can get him to fold half his range. And then with a lot of the hands that we use, if you look here, a lot of these hands that we're going to be using, these aren't even our value bets. You know, if you start adding in these, we're just going to be doing really well. We're going to be making a lot of strong hands. Even some disguised hands. We want to have all these hands in here so we can have a lot of board coverage. You don't want to have a range like, let's see. You don't want to have a range like this just because you're going to have a lot of leaks in your actual game, because maybe something like this. You're going to be at a disadvantage versus opponents because you're going to have big range gaps. All these middling cards aren't going to be able to hit, so your opponent can start calling a lot of these middle cards, not folding to 3-bets very much, and they can exploit you in situations like that. So our opponent calls, and we decide that we want to 3-bet, or that we want to get to the flop. So we get to a flop like this. You can click here, and you can actually filter. And now we have combos turned on, so you can actually see the combos that they have. They have 9 sets, 18 overpairs, 18 combos of overpairs. There's 6 combos of each pocket pair. So it's going to be queens, jacks, 10s. It's going to have sets like 9, 6s. We're just assuming this is the range that he uses, just for argument's sake. Maybe he doesn't call all of his pocket pairs, but this is a classroom-based theory video, so we want to just give ourselves the benefit of the doubt on that whole thing. So we get to the flop, and I'm assuming, you know, all of our overcards are going to be calling, or going to be betting, all of our overpairs. Definitely could, well, we can just take a look. Excuse me, guys. Queens is just a snap value bet. with 58% equity. And jacks gets a little bit lower. The reason why jacks gets lower is because our opponent is going to have queens, and then he's going to have a lot of sets. So having a hand like queens blocks 5 of his queen combos. And so our equity actually drops quite a bit in that spot. Not to say I wouldn't bet less than queens, but I would say that queens would definitely be a super snap value bet, whereas jacks might be a little bit different. Now, maybe if you had jack with the jack of hearts, that's 47% equity, and then jacks without a heart is 45% equity. So with a heart, we're going to be blocking a lot of his high equity hands, ace jack of hearts, queen jack of hearts, jack 10 of hearts, and then obviously 5 is jacks combos. So yeah, I mean, jacks with a jack of heart is definitely going to be close. It depends on your opponent if they're a weaker opponent, but I would probably lean towards a value bet. It's hard to say, but we know for sure that without a heart, queens is a value bet, and then with a heart, yeah, I mean, we're over 60%. And the reason why that's so important to use queens is because he never has aces and he never has kings in his range. And we're assuming in this situation, so actually we could do in this situation, if you added in pocket pairs below top pair, if you added in 7s and 8s, which I'm assuming 7s and 8s are always going to call. Yeah, actually jacks is a bet. And then if you add in all of his pocket pairs call the flop, then jacks is a super value bet. I don't know if he's always going to call all of his pocket pairs. I think it's likely he would, actually, given that it's a low board, doesn't really hit us. The only hands it hits are our over pairs are the only hands that actually retain or have a big lead against his range. So I would say probably this is a reasonable calling range. And this is why I like this program so much, is because you can actually go through, see all the range, see all the combos, and see what part of their range. And then you could tab if you wanted and go to what percent of their range is. So weak pairs are 26%, and then the other bulk is over pairs. Obviously, if you take jacks out, then it's going to be about 50% of their range is pairs. And that's what I had said before, you know, on certain boards they're going to be folding so much. So making these types of 3 bets is going to be really profitable. So that being said, I mean, queens just has to be a snap value bet, 71%. And then queen of hearts, queen is just super, super value bet there. Cool. Let's actually look at 10s. Yeah, 10s would definitely be a value bet there with 57% equity and then 10 of hearts. So assuming he doesn't call with these weak pairs, 10s is going to be close. So 10s is probably the threshold. Without a heart, I would probably... Yeah, without a heart, it's close. But that's probably what I'm looking at in that spot, is probably 10s, assuming he doesn't call these low pocket pairs, but he might still call those on the flop. So it's around 10s or jacks, with a heart having higher equity and not having heart being lower equity. So hopefully that helped. I think that's the threshold. So now we can choose. You can go down here, you can lock flop, and then you can choose a random turn, which is really cool. And then you can look at the equity of their range. So they are, let's see, this is, yeah, so pocket pair below, top pair stays in there. Oh, wait a minute. We need to filter the turn. Pocket pair below, top pair stays in there because that's his queens, his jacks, his 10s. Then he's going to have sets. And he's still going to have his flush draws. So he has flush draws. The flush draws that get to the turn are going to be hands like 10-9 of clubs that call the flop, 9-8 of clubs that call the flop, 8-7 of clubs, and 8-7 of hearts that call the flop. So he has 7 flopped, 3 turned. So that's also a really cool thing that this has there. So now we need to look at our weakest value bet. I'm imagining, let's do queen with no flush blocker. Well, he actually never has a queen of clubs. So we actually should be value betting pocket queens here with 58% equity, and queen of hearts for sure with 59% equity. So now we could even go down, see our tens. Yeah, our tens really aren't doing that well. Just because he has queens, jacks, then he has all his sets that get to the turn, and then he starts to have pretty high equity flush draws. He's going to have, you know, ace, king, king, queen of hearts. Then he's going to have hands like queen, jack, jack 10 that turn gut shots with their flush draw that are still going to be really strong. So tens is definitely the biggest issue with tens, is that he's going to have jacks and queens. So we're going to, it might be this weird, yeah, it's a little bit higher equity, but tens is just super low equity hand. Now we'll look at jacks. Jacks is getting better. It's 41%, but the problem is he starts calling. He still has pocket queens in his range, and he starts picking up some kings and then some really high equity draws, combo draws on the turn. So I don't think that we could value bet jacks. Jack with a heart. Oh, jack with a heart is even less. Oh, the reason why jack with a heart is even less is because the only hands that have a heart in them, ace jack, queen jack, jack 10, are the only hands that have the jack of hearts with them are draws. So if we have the jack of hearts in our hand, it actually lowers our equity by a little bit. So that's interesting, because generally what we learned on the flop is using a hand that has a heart in it is generally good for us because it blocks a lot of his calling range. And also blocks like pocket pairs and stuff. Yeah, but here it's actually working against us, because then it makes his range stronger in the sense that he has more value hands in his range there, whereas on the flop it's still pretty wide. So here it would definitely be, yeah, it's definitely going to be queens that we should be value betting. Queens without a heart, and then queens with a heart is going to be higher equity. Just because we don't lose to any overpairs. We just lose to a couple combos of kings. We also block king-queen suited when we have the queen of hearts, which is a flush draw hand that we lose to. One of the two kings that we lose to. So on the flop, I think we decided it was jacks, and then on the turn it's queens. And then we will lock the turn and put it in a river. Let's see this river and see how it goes. 3 of spades, so completely blank. So I suspect we're going to do 2 rivers. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, we're going to assume that he'll probably call those hands. I mean, I would assume he has to call jacks some amount of the time. Queens, probably a lot. Yeah, so queens is going to be at the cusp, and then let's see. Yeah, ace king of spades, 67%. Then king queen of spades is 60%, and then a hand like 2 queens is going to be 52%. I would be value betting pocket queens on this river. Once you get down to jacks, the problem with jacks is that our opponent has all these queens in their range. They have all these pocket pairs, so they have 8 combos that beat us. We eliminate a lot of their jacks in their range, and that's a big part of their calling range that we need to be beating is jacks and tens. So because they don't have jacks and they have a lot of queens, it makes it a pretty bad value bet with 2 jacks. So as we figured out, the flop was going to be around jacks or tens is going to be a value bet. The turn's going to be queens, and the the Queen of Hearts being good. We can't value bet the jacks on the turn, and then the river is going to be queens as well. Let's see one more river. Okay, that's an interesting river. I actually like that a lot better. Oh, wait a minute. That was the King of Clubs and then the Jack of Diamonds on the river. Okay, so when we get the Jack of Diamonds, I guess it's going to improve some of his value hands. Yeah. Jack 10, Queen Jack are going to get to the rivers with some bluff catchers. So I think it's going to be the same thing in this spot. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. So this is pretty interesting. We get to the river, and we think that on a complete blank, we know that queens is a value bet and jacks is not. On a Jack of Diamonds river, we cannot value bet two queens. Reason being is when we have two queens, you see that his queen combos go down. His queen combos go down to 1, and then his lower pocket pairs that are going to be calling 10 should actually call. Let's see. Okay, 10s. Yeah, let's just say 10s for the sake of the argument that 10s and 9s and 9x calls. Queens still can't be a value bet because we really only beat 10s. And we beat some 10-9 hands. And then a couple of Jack X hands. So 2 Jack X, 6 10s, and then 2 9x. So assuming 10 losing hands call us, which I think is going to be close. I don't think a 9's ever going to call us, especially when the jack hits the river. Yeah, I don't think 9s or 10s are going to call there. So that being said, queens on this particular river, because our opponent has jacks enough of the time in their range, it doesn't seem like many combos. It's only 3 combos, but the fact is their range is already tight, and so these are the hands that make it to the river. That being said, there's going to be some... we'll just finish up this river, so let's see what we can value bet. Ace King. Ace King doesn't even look like it's a value bet. Ace King offsuit. Ace King with a heart is bad because it blocks his King Queens and it blocks his Ace Jacks. Oh, never mind. That's not right. Ace King of Hearts is like a pretty bad value bet there. It's going to be one of our worst Ace Kings because we do block King Queen and we block Ace Jack, which are potential hands that could call. I honestly don't even know if we could value bet Ace King on this river. The best we could value bet, and we do have this hand in our range, would be King Jack suited on that particular river. And hope to get hero called by queens or have King Queen Ace King call us. Wow, that's pretty interesting. So it's pretty interesting that on a complete blank we can value bet queens. And then on a pretty dynamic river, we can only be value betting top 2 pair, which is a pretty interesting thing to consider. And this is why doing exercises like this is so valuable, because you're going to find out things in poker that you really didn't understand or know before. We're going to see aces here. See 2 offsuit aces. Yeah, 2 aces is even close. Probably could value bet aces there, but it's going to be close. We definitely don't have high equity there. Without a heart. Yeah, 2 aces without a heart is going to be probably my weakest value bet, but I would probably want to value bet king jack. We also have some king nines in our range, so let's see how those are doing. Yeah, king jack, king nine, and aces without a heart is going to be our best value betting hands, or our minimum value betting hands in this situation. So yeah, pretty interesting concept there. Pretty cool findings. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please post them below, and I will do my best to answer them or ask them on stream. I'm going to start doing these videos. I'm going to make a series where I am posting these videos, going through these, and putting them up on the YouTube. We can look at different spots, non-3-bet pots, 4-bet pots, whatever it is, and we can go through certain hands. And you're more than welcome to post hands in the comments below. Post hands you would like to see me review, or send me a message on Twitch. I'd be more than happy to do stuff like that. But I'd be really interested to keep going through these and figuring out what hands we could be value betting in these spots. So I'd be really happy to look over that. Like I said, thank you everybody for coming out and watching this video, and I hope to see you on stream. All right, later guys.